feature presentation.
Also, I watched this the first time we were going to record this, so I have to go back into my notes here.
Was that before Christmas?
Oh.
No, it was like earlier January.
That nothing lasts forever, even cold November rain, a fire. Okay, I got that out of my system.
Good.
Well, we started. That's in it. That's in it.
Yeah.
now.
No. The podcast has started, Peter. That's
Cool.
just yeah.
Cool. Who wants to take us in?
Who came up with the gimmick?
I think it was me. I didn't mean for it to actually become a bit, but it has become a bit, and I'm honestly pretty happy about it. So obviously, in our last episode, we covered "Singing in the Rain" with Matt minus Frank. Sorry, we missed you.
An episode that we definitely recorded already.
It's definitely recorded. It's definitely in the can. It is definitely in everybody's podcast feeds by the time this episode comes out. You know, we like to do a theme month. It makes coming up with ideas for the show easier. And we were sort of riffing on, like, what could we do sort of like in the spirit of Singing in the Rain. And some people, and Matt brought up a couple of musicals that were from the same era. And, you know, I was thinking about Babylon, which is which is a movie that is very much indebted to Singing in the Rain. Which, have you guys seen Babylon?
No, but I
new?
really need to. It's on my list. The Damien Chazelle movie.
Damien Chazelle. It came out last year. It's one of the few movies I saw in the theater last year, and oh my god, I don't know if I like it, but it certainly is a lot of movie and is worth watching. And then suddenly I decided to be a little stinker and just came up with the idea
Cheeky.
of doing Rain movies for this month. And we were sort of riffing on stuff. Frank, I think you pitched Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain, is that what it was called? The Christian
Hard
Slater?
Rain.
Hard Rain. Hard Rain.
Chubby Rain.
Chubby Rain. There's
Stiffy Rain.
There's Black Rain. I can't think of the other like dozen.
Purple Rain.
Purple Rain. I couldn't think of the other dozen or so rain-related movies that we thought of. But then I thought of, in a moment of comedy genius, Reign of Fire.
Which might be about as far from Singing in the Rain as you can get.
And instead of being a wet movie, this is a very hot movie. There's a lot.
There's crying in the ash.
No singing, no dancing. Just tears and fire and blood.
So yeah, today we're going to talk about 2020.
It's set in 2020.
It's set in 2020. 2002's Reign in Fire.
Rain
Wait.
of Fire.
Fuck.
A creature has been awakened that has lain dormant for millions of years. A species older than the dinosaurs and more terrifying than anything we could have imagined.
How did they go from 1 to 1 million in less than a year?
Highly evolved,
They have great vision in the day. They have even better vision at night.
extremely intelligent,
He's playing hide and seek.
More like cat and mouse.
unbelievably powerful,
2 glands in the mouth secrete separate chemicals.
Combine exhalation, nitrile napalm.
We're going to London.
this summer,
Vertical one up.
the plan is set.
1,600 yards, closing fast.
The arsenal has been assembled.
Get ready to rock and roll. Each other!
And they've got one chance to take back their world. Matthew McConaughey, Christian Bale. Reign of Fire.
It's funny too because it's like, it's not even the same rain word. It's
Nope.
like it's a what's that, a homonym? What
It's
is
a
that?
Homophone.
Homophone.
Homophone, yes,
right.
homophone, yes.
Sound
Right?
right. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
that was the essence of the bit, Frank.
No, I get it.
But here we are. And boy howdy, first I think at the top here, we have to recognize that we're actually recording on a very fortuitous day, because this film stars Matthew McConaughey, Gerard Butler, and the birthday boy Christian Bale.
Happy birthday, Christian
Happy
Bale.
birthday,
Oh.
Christian Bale! He turns 50 today.
My God.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And he's such a baby in this. I guess this would have been when he was 28. No.
No.
No, see, that,
I'm not going to attempt to do math right now.
yeah, that
No.
2 year difference, because the beginning of the film takes place in 2002 when the movie came out. And then
Yes.
instead of jumping to 2022, they jump to 2020. So it's 18 years, which makes that kind of that math complicated.
It's wild. What's everyone's experience with this movie? Frank, do you remember when you first saw this movie?
I do, and I think I'm gonna have something that I feel like Connor might have a similar story with it, where there was something about the trailers for this movie I was really excited about. Looked awesome. It was like we were like 12, 13 around then when this came out, and looked a lot of fun. And there was one like image that I got stuck in my head that I was so like excited to see, which is not in the movie. And it was just like, I guess it was part of the marketing, which was like a giant aerial battle between dragons and like Apache helicopters. Like, does anyone remember this?
Nope.
These images at all? I think it's like it's subtly on the poster or the cover or whatnot.
Yeah.
But I could swear there's footage of it, but maybe not. But I got it in my head, so the whole movie I was waiting to see this like epic scene that does not happen in the movie at all, and it's a very different experience.
Why?
Beyond that,
Why?
do you remember this?
That feels like it's unlocking a memory for me, but it's so non-specific. I'm not sure if my brain's just making it up.
I thought I was Berenstein Bearsing it until I was like, let me just Google it and see. And I found a Reddit thread where somebody was like, hey, is anyone else annoyed that there isn't a big battle scene between helicopters and dragons in Reign of Fire? And I'm like, yeah, it's like a bunch of people commented on it. I guess it was just part of the like artwork was like,
And
Yeah.
it might, who knows? It might have been part of the script at some point. And they had to cut.
yeah, who knows? But I was pretty underwhelmed the first time I saw it. I haven't thought about it since. I think that I like rented it on DVD when I was a kid, and I haven't thought about it since. But I'll say, watching it this time, I enjoyed it a lot more. It's still not great. There are like it comes in and out of really cool parts, and I think we'll get into some of the really cool scenes. But it starts to really like lose its footing.
And this goes on and back and forth for 90 or so minutes until the movie just sort of ends.
It kind of gives up. Like at the
It kinda
like,
gives
like,
up.
They were really excited about this movie at the very beginning. They're like all into this world building, and then like right after the big like scene where Matthew McConaughey's guys get all fried. Spoiler.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
They kind of give up on the movie after that.
That's the exact place.
Yeah.
It's
As
like
soon
they
as the
ran out of
dragons
money to pay them.
As soon as the dragons re-enter the picture, it stops being as interesting as when
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale are staring at each other.
So that's my experience. I think I like this more than I dislike it, but it's still like a fairly flawed movie.
What about you, Connor?
My experience is fairly similar. I remember renting it from Blockbuster on DVD and putting it in, or putting it on. I'm not sure when, but I know I watched it with like a crowd, with like a group of like other kids, which led to me having to watch it again the next day because I missed so much of it because we were, messing around doing other stuff. And watched it again and thought it was fine. There's dragons. Matthew McConaughey is, looks like a superhero, but like, it's one of those things where it's like only with a few years of experience behind me did I really understand exactly like how how intense some of the nuances of this movie are, especially in the performances. Watching it again, I gotta say, I enjoyed the spit out of it. I had a great time. Is it a flawed film? Absolutely. But did I enjoy watching it? Also, absolutely. I can enjoy a flawed film.
Sure. That's the whole point of this podcast.
It absolutely is. I have a very distinct memory of watching this movie for the first time, and it might have been one of the best ways to watch this movie. When I went to college, I had a buddy who he got like the unlimited like Netflix DVD thing. He was like an early adopter of Netflix, and he would basically get as many as they could send him. He would handbrake them, throw them on a hard drive, and then immediately send it back like within an hour to try and like get them back as fast as possible. So he would start taking requests for like whatever you wanted. And so by the time I left for college, I had one of those CD binders that were just full of ripped movies that I took with me.
Wow.
And Reign of Fire was one of them. And I remember like
Your friend sounds so much like a Matt Conrad. By the way.
kinda.
He was your
Yo-ho.
he was your practice run for Conrad.
He's
A
like
little.
moneyballing a system that involves movies.
So
And piracy.
yeah. But I never watched Reign of Fire until I believe it was my junior year. I woke up after one particular night, hung the fuck over. And I was like, I think I went and got some McDonald's, and I came back home and I sat down on my couch and I was like, this feels right. And I put in Reign of Fire, and Reign of Fire cured me of my hangover. And that was my first time. And I think that's also the last time that I saw this movie.
That's funny. It's crazy to think about, but it is a good hangover movie because you feel like shit watching a lot of it. Like, it's so depressing and the ground is so dirty. Like, it's just so gray.
It's also like it's not it's not such a complex thing that you have to like really pay
No.
attention.
No.
Like
Yeah.
you can just let the movie kind of wash over you, and that's honestly probably the best way to see this movie.
No, you're not going to feel anything.
No. It's kind of incredible, just given the amount of Frank and I were discussing before we started recording, just like the this era of movie craft, like as CGI is coming in, but things are not completely CGI'd. As we're getting towards the beginning of the end of like using film to shoot movies on. Digital is certainly part of the workflow, but it's not the only thing. So there is a ton of craft on screen for pretty much every frame of this movie, except for a few. Given the amount of work and artistry that's in this movie, it is shocking how disposable it feels.
And how they actually do a ton of front loading to try and build the world.
Yeah.
Let's should we talk about just sort of the bones of the movie real quick?
Yeah.
The Dragon Bones.
Dragon Bones, baby. So the movie starts during we follow this young boy in, I believe it's 2000 or 2002.
It's 2002.
And he's going to visit his mom, who's working at a dig site in London, building. I forget if it's like a new tunnel for the London Underground or it's something under London.
Yeah.
And they spend a long time with this.
A long time.
Because he starts chumming around with some of the workers, and then one of the workers gets him to go in a hole. And long story short, he wakes up a dragon. The dragon comes and kills everybody, blinds him temporarily, I guess, because he can see later in the movie. And you kind of get this like smash cut sequence of news stories about how dragons basically take over the world. They're
Well, his mom
breeding.
gets killed too. Don't forget.
Yeah. Oh,
about
yeah.
his mom.
Did I not say that? Yeah. His mom dies. So dragons take over the world. They breed too fast. They're too strong. So the whole world is basically thrown into chaos. And we jump cut to Christian Bale and Gerard Butler leading this encampment at this castle somewhere in the middle of the countryside of England, just surviving with a small group of people in the castle keep, and trying to keep everybody's spirits up by reenacting Star Wars, because people have already started to forget movies and lore, and which is
those kids are not older than the apocalypse, so
no,
Yeah.
they are much younger than the
one
apocalypse.
of the sweetest scenes in like this era of film, I think, is there's something about pre-Batman Christian Bale and post-Dracula 2000 Gerard Butler playing Star Wars in front of a bunch of children who are paying attention with rapt, like their eyes are wide open and they're gasping at the turns of the Empire Strikes Back's lightsaber fight, and then putting on this like this little pantomime for the children is there's something sweet in there that is not fakeable, you know.
This is also 5 years before Gerard Butler does 300, which is
Yeah.
kind of crazy to think
Yeah.
about. So there's some conflict in the camp, and some guys sort of defect and try and go get some crops early, and that goes really poorly, but you get some cool action sequences to see how they're sort of fighting the dragon, which is mostly just trying to protect themselves with like water cannons and old fire trucks and stuff. But eventually this armored convoy shows up out of nowhere. And this is actually what this is ripe for a prequel, is the story of Denton Van Zandt, played by Matthew McConaughey, and the story that he tells about how they're doing in America and how they figured out how to fight the dragons, and that they're here to like try and stop the one male. They figured out there's only one male dragon that just impregnates fertilizes thousands of eggs at one shot. So they figure if they can kill the male, they can kill the species. And so they've tracked it down to London, and here's where the final battle's going to be. But the story that he tells about how he kills the dragon for the first time in Kansas, that's the real movie that I want to see.
It was in the wheat fields just south of Coffeyville, Kansas. It was late November. It's a month of mist. We were caught in the open. The sun was setting behind us. There's nowhere to run. Twice it came in on us, and twice it missed the heart of us. And that's when I had an epiphany. You see, they have great vision in the day. They have even better vision at night. But in the failing light, they can't focus. Magic hour.
Also, McConaughey looks like a damn superhero in this movie.
Dude, he
I-
looks so cool.
I noticed that, like, he got into like Marvel superhero shape for this part. Like every muscle
Before that
is-
was a thing.
before that was a thing. Exactly. Yeah.
There's one shot where he and Christian Bale get into a fist fight, and he takes off his vest, and he's dirty the whole movie. Whoever did the makeup for him especially, he's just covered in a layer of dirt the whole movie. He looks awesome. Shaved head, big beard. And there's one where he comes back for a whole punch, and you just see all of the muscles tighten up in his core all the way up to his shoulder. I'm like, damn. Like you see the work on screen. The dude is in tremendous shape.
Yeah. Well, and he matches that. He matches his physical intensity with like just how intense of a character Van Zandt is. Like
He's like Patton crossed with Captain Ahab.
yeah,
It's wonderful.
Oh, that's exactly what it is.
with a
That's
little
like
with
the exact
like a little bit of Wolverine. You know,
a little bit of Wolverine. The way he fights, too, he like turns into an animal.
well,
He's
and the
so,
way he
like,
growls. It's all the
growling's
grunting
great.
and the growling and this sort of like animal thing coming up in him when he's like in combat.
yeah. He
So-
injects such a much needed like burst of energy when he comes into this movie. Like I was struggling until he showed up.
Because Gerard Butler is like doing this plucky best friend thing, which doesn't quite fit, and Christian Bale is he's timid and like nearly nerdy. You almost get the sense that he's like a scientist that like doesn't quite know how to lead people, but is like got this like specialized thing that he deals with. Like he just seems uncomfortable talking to everybody in this movie.
Yeah, it's muddled.
So Van Zandt and the Americans come, and they've got this helicopter, and they basically, explain what they're here to do. And they're able to demonstrate and kill a dragon, like, pretty quickly. And after that, there's, some partying and some back and forth, and the Americans are like, this is no reason to party. And by the way, we need people to come and help us kill this dragon. And it gets to the point where they actually start, forcibly getting guys to come with them, which is, iffy at best. So finally the Americans leave, and they get ambushed in this like massive junkyard right outside London. And basically everybody dies except McConaughey and Isabella Scorupco.
Natalia.
Yeah, who plays... What movie was that from? That was from...
It was GoldenEye.
GoldenEye. I had to look
That's
it up. I'm like, why do I know this person?
She's really good in this movie. I'm blanking on her character's name, but
Alex,
she's
They say
good.
it a bunch of
Alex
times.
Jensen.
Long story short, McConaughey and Alex Van Jensen make it back to the castle. They then sort of covertly make it to London
Yeah.
and and have the dumbest final battle with like the giant dragon.
It's so lame. Yeah.
It is really lame. This is, like I said, I think they kind of gave up there. Oh yeah, Matthew McConaughey has a giant axe for some reason. And like really just sacrifices himself for no reason, jumping into the dragon's mouth with this axe.
He sacrificed
I don't
himself for the trailer, Peter.
Well, yes. That is one I do remember from the trailer. I remember that
Yeah.
shot from the trailer. So they defeat the dragon, and then it jumps to 3 months later, and everything seems to be going great. They haven't seen any more dragons, and they start to get communication from the outside world, and everything just kind of ends like really abruptly.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the movie.
Even hearing you go through the beats of it, I'm like, man, yeah, what are we doing? Like, even just the broad strokes of, because there's the whole, like, most of the movie's supposed to be this, like, power dynamic between McConaughey and Christian Bale and their differing philosophies of leadership. And I'm giving a lot of credit by by phrasing it that way, because the movie doesn't really have much of that at all. But, like, having them sort of like bond and then get into a fight and then break apart, and then he takes a bunch of people off and gets killed and then comes back, and then Christian Bale's like, oh, I know a way in, and then he like it feels like they rewrote it because the budget got slashed or something. It just doesn't feel like you write the movie to follow that trajectory at all. I don't know.
No, the ending just feels abrupt and half-assed. Like there was something bigger and grander, and they had to scrap it all at the last minute and figure out something else entirely.
Yeah.
Something much smaller.
If I had to guess, this is complete conjecture. I've done like no research on this, and who knows if it's out there. The scene where the bull dragon kills the whole army in one fell swoop, that doesn't happen, and the whole army basically gets to London.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole like third act of the movie is
Like a big battle
a big battle, with the army,
with helicopters.
and then they lose, and the dragon comes back to the castle, and Christian Bale kills the dragon in the castle.
Yeah, that's better. I mean, the you'd think the ending would be at the castle or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of rewrites right early on, but I don't mind a lot of that. My biggest issue is I just want this movie to have more fun with the concept of like a zombie apocalypse with dragons.
Yeah.
And it's treating it like it's a World War II like movie. Like it's treating it like it's like we have to be respectful of those who fell. And it's like, dude, give me a little bit of camp, a little bit of like tongue in cheek, and a little bit of color.
No, this was firmly in the Bleach bypass era. There's no color to be had.
No, this is Saving Private Ryan was like all they had as a reference.
That is made more clear by the fact that so much of like the world building stuff is so front loaded at the top of the movie. Like when the guys that are stealing the tomatoes from the garden get rescued by Christian Bale and the rest of the team, and you see like the system of like water pumps that they've set up to keep the exterior of the trucks cool, and like the repurposed like fire heat resistant suits that they use to walk around, and the way that they've retrofitted an ancient castle to be this like dragon proof bunker, and the prayer that they say before the kids go to bed, and like the way that they set up, the way that the castle operates is so complete. Like it's like you could probably be dropped in there like tomorrow and sort of know what the rhythms of this place is, and what the interpersonal dynamics of the place is. And then the cavalry shows up, and it kind of just becomes about them more than the ways that they don't fit in to this dynamic. I mean, and this might be some commentary sort of based on the 2002 of it all, but the way that the Americans roll into a place that's not America and say, we are better than you at this, and we're going to fix your problems for you.
We're here to save your punk asses.
Yeah. And kind of grind the movie to a halt, which is, again, very America in 2002.
I was sort of waiting, and I'm guessing that this movie was in production in 2001, so that there wasn't really an opportunity to inject any of the political goings-on of the time into this, but it certainly is an interesting lens to look at this movie through, where a place is in crisis and the Americans come to try to make it better, and sort of do. Like, at least the big bad guy isn't the big bad guy anymore by the end. I don't know. It's I love me some tanks. So anytime I get to see a tank, although the tank never fires, which is kind of lame.
And is a British tank. I'm not sure how you feel about that.
I know.
But I do think the best parts are the strongest parts story-wise are like the world building early on with the castle. I think is pretty effective. And I think where this starts as a concept is like, okay, how do we get modern? How do we do dragons and knights in a different way, in a modern setting? You just like basically you think the clean version of this is like, let's deconstruct society through an apocalypse, and have the society they rebuild just by the nature of like what we need because of dragons forms itself into something that resembles medieval life. Like you don't have electricity, you have to live in a castle because the stone, like, just basically just build it there. The American army showing up kind of muddles that, but McConaughey's just so charismatic as that character that the distraction's kind of warranted, because like you said, Christian Bale, and I think Gerard Butler's actually like doing a really good job giving some heart to something in this movie. But
you do get the impression that Matthew McConaughey would just stay up all night watching Apocalypse Now and then wake up on no sleep and just do the part. Like he's somehow just running on like tobacco and whiskey and like that's it.
You know the story with his hair in this
Tell me.
movie. Okay. So he shows up at set with a shaved head, and that was not something anyone agreed to. He shows up to start filming with a completely shaved head.
I love it.
None of the filmmakers or producers like were ready for that or expecting it at all. And apparently, I'm pretty sure this is proven true, but if it's not, I'm just going to say allegedly. He was starting to lose his hair and was trying a procedure or a treatment to just quell it and undo it, and whoever the medical person was saying it will work a lot better if you shave your head and then do the treatment. So he used it as like a character decision, but also like as a way to adjust his like receding hairline a bit. Which I'm glad he did.
As a creative decision, it's incredible. The way that Van Zandt is styled and designed makes only accentuates what McConaughey is doing performance-wise. Like the stupid tribal tattoo thing, like it's very of the era, but gives him, accentuates the lines that are already sort of naturally there, and how much like how cut all of his muscles are. I think the sleeveless jacket is kind of inspired, just to make him more look like a block, or
it's really good,
and make him look angular and short. I don't know what I don't know why that sleeveless jacket plays as well as it does. But the thing to me that really solidifies who who Denton Van Zandt is as a character, is the blonde beard.
Yeah.
Because there is something inherently untrustworthy about a blonde adult man, I find.
This is a strange thing. I've never heard you say this.
I don't know. It might just be a me thing. Don't know what it is, but you know.
I want to explore that. Is it like is it like adult men should not be blonde and that it in itself is untrustworthy, or it just feels unnatural?
Yeah, I think I think that's definitely part of it. One, you have the whole like don't trust Aryans, because just don't trust Aryans.
Just because a few ruined it for everybody doesn't.
But I think part of it is like because. Okay, I don't know this for sure, but my observation being alive for as long as I've been alive is like hair just gets darker as you get older. So by the time, so like if you're like a toe-headed like little kid, like a little like blonde boy, a lot of that sort of becomes a very light brown by the time you're an adult. But for
that's what this was. I was super blonde when I was a kid.
Are you serious?
Swear to God. I'll find a picture.
I mean, I was too, but I just lost all my hair, so I went the McConaughey route and never looked back.
But yeah, there's something about like the retaining that kind of like golden flaxen hair as an adult that like reads as a little unsettling to me.
Huh?
Yeah, and
this
is just a me thing.
We are gonna peel this onion over the rest of this podcast. We're gonna find it. We're gonna find some movie that there's some traumatizing scene with like a blonde adult, and we'll be like, "Oh, okay, we found it." I just want to flag for a second how cool the name Denton Van Zandt is.
It's so cool,
so ridiculous for a movie that takes itself this seriously,
and it is fun. The other story that I read about this was, Christian Bale was originally going to play Quinn as like this really skinny, anemic guy because he's like, it's the apocalypse. We're starving all the time. And then McConaughey shows up to set just jacked out of his mind. And he's like, I have to fight that fucker in 2 weeks. And so he started going to the gym like 3 times a day between shoots.
This is where Christian Bale's body images started.
Yeah. Christian Bale does like a body transformation.
I think he'd already done the Machinist at this point, right?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
But
I do think the single scene that works best for me is the actual like McConaughey's troops hunting the dragon. Like how they do it is really cool, really fun. The paratrooper guys, like that is so scary. The Archangels, yeah. Everything about that scene is just like it makes you actually believe he survived this long. Like it connects a lot of dots and plays it out.
Yeah.
Is there a line about the dragons are like dying off because they've eaten all the food? Is there?
At the very end, they see the bull dragon eat another dragon, and they're like, they must be starving.
Yeah.
Like,
And there's a moment. They mention a few times that like the world's food supply is getting down towards the end of the bottom of the barrel, and the dragons are running out of food to eat, and they're eating ash.
Yeah. I think the lore seems to be because they have a throwaway line that the dragons killed the dinosaurs, which is again like how are
so
you
good.
Not winking?
It's so good.
That's the movie I want to see. But no. There's a throwaway line about like basically every time the world's ended, the dragons have like woken up, destroyed everything, every living thing, everything you could possibly eat. They basically wither away until they go back comatose and they like go back underground, and then the next time. So we've had 5 mass extinctions in human history. That I think that's what they're trying to do. Is like the dragons are this like.
Yeah, they go dormant and then they start the cycle again, and
But then the gimmick of the one male dragon throws that all out of whack.
Oh, it's the science of this, because what I kept waiting for was like a great sequel to this is kind of like honeybees. How if there is no queen, one of them just becomes the queen.
Yeah.
So they're like. I forget what that term is, but they can change gender given the species need and just adapt, and one of them becomes the male now. Like, they're hermaphroditic, I guess.
Yeah.
But that was what I was waiting for.
That would be good too. Or honestly, just have it be like McConaughey figures out that there are very few males, and like he's trying to hunt one of them down. Because if you kill one of them, it's equivalent of killing like 1,000 females. Like, just have some line about that, and it's like the world doesn't get saved at the end. It's just like basically killing the male dragon in England makes it so there's no dragons within 1,000 miles that are going to be a problem, kind of thing.
It's like a spay and neuter and like a catch and release spay and neuter program where it's just like they're still there, but they're going to be gone in a few years.
Bob
Gotta bring
Barker
back Bob
is
Barker.
the Denton
There we
Van
go.
Zandt.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this is kind of that era where there's just enough internet to find things out, but not enough to really understand what's going on. So I think this happened a lot in this era where it's sort of like, I know just enough about science to make some shit up that doesn't actually make any sense or stand up to any scrutiny, but it sounds plausible when you're sitting in a movie theater, like like The Core. Remember The Core? Remember The Core?
Yes.
When The Core
Great
stopped?
example of this.
And they had to go in the...
I remember when The Core stopped.
Yeah, and they had to restart The Core. You know, like that's one of those things you're sitting there... I remember that movie came out shortly
04, I think.
after this, or maybe before this. And sitting there, I remember watching it on an airplane and being like, yeah, that sounds
That's what happens to cores.
plausible enough. Sure, why not?
Core was the next year, 2003, but it is squarely in this genre of movie.
Yeah. Well, and also
You don't
like,
have a phone in your pocket to Google afterwards.
Yeah.
and it's also the beginning of having to make fantasy shit scientifically plausible. Like the whole the whole the line that always stuck out to me from the trailer, that like when it happens in the movie, I'm like, hey, that's the thing, was when Christian Bale says like, there's two glands in the mouth, secrete something, and then that's how fire happened. You know, I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
I'll put it in right here.
Two glands in the mouth secrete separate chemicals.
Combine exhalation, natural napalm.
That kind of stuff would eventually turn into like, how does Batman actually Batman in real life in The Dark Knight 3 years later?
Yeah, it's the lead-in to gritty realism. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that combined with the, like, studios refused to go all in on, like, being, like, they were so ashamed of nerdy ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And you get that, like, as much as I like it, but, like, the first Bryan Singer X-Men is just, like, refuses to look like an X-Men movie in so many ways.
Yeah.
And like not until Spider-Man did they really even do it, like the cost. Like you're always trying to basically like trick modern audiences into watching something nerdy, and this is just another one of those where like you make this now and it could have the. I mean, you could take in a lot of directions, but I think there are movies that could strike a more interesting sort of balance between like the big over the top nature of the high concept and like giving it like a gritty war kind of feel to it. Even honestly, even like a Rogue One kind of like does like kind of juggles those balls in that kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, but you do got to remember, like, this is like the immediately after 9/11 of it all thing too.
Yeah, but I don't think this came out July 2002. Like, it can't have been.
September was like 7 months before that.
Yeah, but what are the principal photography?
True. Yeah,
it was squarely in post-production.
I get what you mean.
Like what? They just make it blander? Like what? Like did they color it
Well, like,
down? What
you
could
know,
they have done?
You know, several months after lots of people were covered with ash, you make a dragon thing where ash is a big element. This was my.
But if
read.
anything, they shouldn't have doubled down on it. Like if they should have like toned that down. Instead, it's like the most 9/11 dragon movie you could make.
Right. Well, I mean, is that not America right after 9/11, where we should have been like, okay, take a step back, maybe pump the brakes a little bit, and we just went full steam ahead into.
Maybe I don't remember. I gotta go back and see what else we did. Like when we started actually changing movies because of. Other than like the Spider-Man.
Would you be shocked though if they had to scrap like there's a Time magazine in that's a really cool prop that has like dragons on the cover, which I have a lot of questions about, like how print media was able to distribute in a time when dragons are flying around.
Paper,
something flammable.
Paper,
yeah.
famously flammable.
But like, would you be shocked to hear that like they had to reshoot that sequence where they zoom in on the cover because the first cover was like dragons like torching the Twin Towers in New
No,
York.
I would totally
No,
believe
that-
that. Yeah.
I wouldn't be
no.
remotely surprised if that story came up.
Because that was the famous story about Spider-Man, right? Where
Mhm.
there was a
Yeah.
sequence where he saves a helicopter that he catches in a web in between the Twin Towers.
Well, the original teaser trailer for Spider-Man was
You can see it.
criminals
still,
are
right?
escaping from doing a crime, and they get caught in a web that's spun between the two towers.
yeah.
And I think the original ending of Spider-Man was the Twin Towers related. He might have done something similar at the very end, like right before the credits of Spider-Man, and that and then they had to change it so it just ends with him jumping on top of an American flag, which
I know Men in Black 2 ended at the Twin Towers, and that was one of the reasons that movie's a mess because they had to scramble to reshoot a ton of the third act of it. Also, but it's hard to know because it's definitely there's a lot of patchwork here, and I'm noticing this more and more. Where if you really want a good metric, this isn't for you two because you would know this as well, but for anyone like this movie's a good example of every line that either like answers a question or like concisely moves the plot to the next thing is said by someone where you don't see their mouth, and it's ADR'd. Like every
Yeah.
line that cleans. Really watch this movie through that lens. It's crazy how many times there is like a line added in because like it's confusing if you don't know that piece of information, or a line added in to explain like this character's interaction. And it's crazy how little they seemed able to capture on the day to like tell a competent story. That's just the vibe I get, and you can really hear the ADR in this era of movie making before they like cleaned it up so digitally. Like it stands out.
Thinking back to my viewing this morning, there is a lot of pipe laid over the radio with Alexander Siddig sitting like by the radio, just like with a headphone up to his ear, just
all
like,
of that.
Yeah.
All of that. Yeah. That was and not that every movie has some of that.
Yeah.
As good as amazing as The Thing is, there's that scene where Wilford Brimley is at a computer running a simulation of what would happen if the Thing got to like civilization.
Yeah.
All of that was they created that in post basically by just they had shots of Wilford Brimley at a computer, not that wasn't a scene they filmed, and they just added a computer screen with that on
Yeah,
it.
wasn't he like originally like just playing chess against a computer?
Probably.
Well, I thought he was at the
There
beginning,
they had
right?
well,
Doesn't he
in
play
the
chess at the
beginning,
beginning?
McCready
Yeah.
is. Yeah, he does too. But he could have just been. They could have just been getting like you're bored at Antarctica, like do the computer basically. But they like built all of that because they needed to give the movie like some stakes on what they needed to sort of explain it. So every movie has some patchwork, but this was like really apparent how much they were scrambling to fix and clean up what could have been just like a longer movie that they cut down. But
That's definitely possible. I didn't. That did not read to me on my viewing, and admittedly, I was, for whatever reason, just sort of in the mood to be completely bought in when I watched what because there was just something about like the silliness of the concept of dragon post-apocalypse that I was just like, okay, I'm in. And then when they did nail the world building at the very beginning as so well, and Christian Bale is doing a lot in this movie. I think this is actually one of his better performances from like this era of his career, like the pre-Batman era of his career. And the thing that I think he's doing really well is playing how scared Quinn is of the world and how much responsibility he feels to take care of the people under his charge. You know, like the prayer thing is all about taking care of yourself. It's, it's keep both eyes on the sky, keep one on the sky, dig deep, run hard with the kids. And that's him just trying to reinforce like how to survive in this world of dragons. And I think there's something metaphorically that makes a lot of sense where like all he wants to do is keep everybody at the bottom of the castle, as protected as you can possibly be. And he doesn't want to leave the castle. He doesn't want to let people leave the castle. He doesn't want to let anybody into his castle. And he only leaves it when he feels like that's the only option to go actually like finally kill the big bad dragon. And also he also there's also a little bit of a revenge thing in there too. It was like the big bad dragon came to my castle and killed a lot of my friends.
Well, and also killed his mom.
His mom.
Yeah, and killed his mom. So he does like get a little bit of the Ahab sort of vibes in there.
A bit. Yeah, so it has the bones of like.
Yeah, and say what you will about the final battle with the dragon, but both Christian Bale and Isabella Scorpio, how I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly,
Scorpato,
are playing how petrified and terrified they are exceedingly well.
Yeah,
Bale in particular is like just abject fear of being in a situation like the opposite of the situation that he wants to be in. Comes to my viewing this time came across so intensely, especially when in contrast to Matthew McConaughey going completely insane.
And that setup makes the Americans, especially the Angels, so much more cool. There's that one scene when the helicopter sort of lands on the helicopter lands in the castle, and the Archangels are just sitting around, and Gerard Butler and Christian Bale are kind of like debating and what to do about him and talking with him a little bit. And they're just standing there like with their arms crossed, like still as stone. And it's like, I believe these are the baddest motherfuckers left on the planet because of how scared everyone else is. And these guys are just like, yeah, I'm going to fly into the sky and jump out of this helicopter and let a dragon chase me for 10,000 feet on my way down to the ground. I mean, there's no way they were up that high, but you know what I mean. Like
and very likely die.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What did they say? The average
lifespan's like 13 seconds.
17
seconds. 17. That's such a good line.
It's a great line.
Oh, and when they bring it up again with Christian Bale's protege, when he's like, "I could be an archangel," he said, "Yeah, like for 17 seconds."
I mean, a lot works between you have the bones of what should be the plot, which. Connor, you're nailing it. Christian Bale is scared, hiding behind a castle. He's the castle. He's put up walls. He's doing all this stuff. He's hiding in the basement. And you have McConaughey, who's like on the hunt, outside, like very exposed, no sleeves even. And he's basically
kind of insane.
Kind of insane, but you also you can play with that dynamic. And the movie just kind of pits them against each other because they're lead. There's a lot you can do, and you almost want the third act to be longer with the three of them kind of like Jaws style, like on the hunt, where you get to actually spend some time with three very different people.
And the turn where Van Sant basically looks at Christian Bale and says, like, "You're in charge now," after his army gets wiped out. I like that dynamic. I don't think they earned it,
No.
You lead.
It's what
I
goes
follow.
there.
Yeah.
It's what goes there, but you have to build to it.
Exactly. And in the moment between the two actors having their interaction, like I was in it. I liked it a lot, but there was definitely a feeling of like, well, we haven't quite earned this thing that I'm enjoying a lot. I'm gonna let it pass, but trying to make Van Sant likable at the end is
He doesn't need to be likable.
exactly no. He should just
the Ahab thing is
he
the
should
right
be
call.
the villain of the movie.
I don't know about that because I can appreciate the worldview that you need somebody hard and a little bit out of their mind to do something that somebody stuck inside of a castle is afraid to do. Yeah. So, I appreciate the insanity, and I appreciate that you don't have to like this guy, but I wouldn't go so far as to make him the villain. You have plenty of it's not like if this was a TV series, if this was like an HBO extended thing, if this was The Walking Dead but dragons, a billion%, that's your villain right there. But because you have to cram all this in 40 minutes or something,
it's short.
102 minutes.
It's oddly short movie.
You don't have time to do that. They can be at odds with each other, but they got to go kill the dragon.
Right. And
it'd be like making Quint the villain.
Right. And I do enjoy their dynamic at the very end where McConaughey is both following his direction but also mentoring him on the ways of like, okay, if we're gonna like do the fighting, this is how the fighting happens.
Yeah.
That all
Yeah.
being said, I now want my HBO series that is The Walking Dead but dragons. Give it to me.
Well, it's funny you're saying that because this hit before the big zombie craze
Right
of the
before.
2000s.
Yeah.
Like, this was kind of in the zeitgeist of like being it's a zombie movie in many
It's
different
a
ways. but
survival movie. Yeah.
It's a survival movie. It's a but like the fact that it's dragons instead of zombies. Before we had the Dawn of the Dead remake, before 28 Days Later, or obviously The Walking Dead. But like what? Like we didn't have before Shaun of the Dead even.
We actually got Reign of Fire. I just did some quick research. 2 weeks after 28 Days Later.
Oh shit.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh jeez.
So there was
funny.
something in the water.
So 14 days later, we had 14 days earlier. We had 28 Days Later.
Yeah, but I
Did
mean,
you
but
see they're
like
making another 28 Days movie?
It's a 28 years.
Yeah.
And I think Danny Boyle's
just-
coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
pretty-
Cillian Murphy.
Perfect. Yeah.
How's Cillian Murphy coming back 28 years later?
I don't know.
Has it been
he's-
28 years?
No,
No.
Yeah, it's been Peter. It's been oddly close. It's been a lot
It is
closer to
close.
28 years than you want it to be.
Yes.
Yeah, 2002 was 24 years ago, so we're not far.
Why are there so many children at the camp? Did they explain that? It feels like an odd amount of children for how few adults.
It feels like a weird ratio. Like I can only assume that their parents keep dying when
Yeah.
they go out into
Right.
the fields.
I didn't
Okay,
ask,
okay.
I didn't ask the question, but I think that's the answer, Peter. It's just
Okay.
how many parents have died.
Like the children never leave the castle, and the parents have to like go out into the world sometimes, and they die at an alarming rate. Like that's
No, that. It took you 2 seconds. They could have ADR'd that as well while they were in the fucking studio.
look at all these children. Look at them. All the parents have died working in the
What-
fields to keep us alive.
One of the kids. Did you guys recognize one of the kids from
Yeah, it's
a certain
Jack Gleason.
Jack Gleason, Joffrey, who's also in Batman Begins. So I
Yeah.
think Christian Bale must have like.
Well,
Plucked
No,
him.
like
I mean, both of those movies were shot in England, so there's
that's a good point. Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's
yeah.
only so many British actors in England.
I mean, that's where most of them are.
Is that where your blonde hair thing comes from, Connor?
No, but it's certainly a part of
Joffrey.
it. Yeah.
The Lannisters.
He's got a
in general.
Joffrey, Malfoy. It's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
I wasn't even really a Harry Potter guy.
Neither was Draco.
You know what?
Ki-
Justice for blonde kids,
Can I talk for a moment about my favorite shot in this movie?
please.
Please.
And it's not that the shot itself is particularly impressive, but what the way they make it effective is, to me, is, it's sort of like expert craftsman shit that I really dig. When they first let Van Zandt's army into the castle, and everybody's walking in the there's the tank and the trucks and all this other stuff, and Gerard Butler's like, "How do you know you can trust this guy?" And Christian Bale was like, he's like almost frantically trying to be like, trying to explain himself, like, no, this is a good idea. Trust me, this is a good idea. And in the last moment before he's almost like, this guy was fucking terrifying, man. The helicopter flies over the wall and comes in and lands, and the way the movie has worked up until this point, and the way that people have talked about aircraft and the fact that flying is impossible, and that the fact that the dragons own the sky, suddenly this very simple shot of a helicopter hovering and landing carries all of this power. You know, it says everything about how powerful this group of people actually is.
That's our territory.
And that's-
your territory.
And that's just good storytelling.
Yeah.
One of McConaughey's great unhinged speeches, and he has a lot of great unhinged speeches in this movie.
Seriously, just his cut when he gets like an inch away from Christian Bale's face with the dragon tooth, and he tells the story about the dragon fight in Kansas. I that's all I want is that movie.
Yeah.
Like that
He's-
that monologue is fantastic.
He's chewing every last piece of meat off the bone, and God bless him for it, because he's just like, yes, like that sort of they kind of muddle it thematically and like connecting it to Christian Bale's character, but like, man, imagine if the first film was The Fall of Society with Christian Bale, the second movie was Matthew McConaughey in Kansas, and the third movie is them like connecting and like being like
That'd be really
like
cool.
working together. That'd be a fucking trilogy right there if you just broke it out and let each side breathe before you bring them into each other. Especially with the movie that's what was the runtime? 102 minutes.
102 minutes.
Yeah, it's
Jesus
short. It's way
Christ.
shorter than I was expecting it to be.
For how long that kid walks down that fucking mine in the beginning of this movie? Like,
Yeah, this I might be showing my age, but did anybody get a little worked up about how he wasn't wearing any safety equipment in that mine?
well, the fact that everyone else makes it so weird. If you had just, if you had just had
Yeah.
a couple of the other people not wearing hard hats,
Yeah, or if he just
That
had his
would
like
be
tiny,
fine.
or if he was wearing like a hard hat that was like two times too big for him.
If there was like a wall of hard hats and he just pulls one off on his way down to the elevator.
No,
like,
no. You're missing it. I got it. He walks past his mom, starts to go down the chute, and the mom's like, "Hey, don't you forget," and puts a hard hat on him. Great. And she has some line. It's like that. You got to protect your head. Later on, all hell's breaking loose in that part, and he's lost his hat, and he runs into the mom, and they're gonna go up the chute. The mom's like, "Here, wait." She takes off her hard hat, puts it on his. Got to protect your head, and then the mom gets killed in the head because she gave her hard hat to the son.
But then there's a scene in the castle where like the
Oh,
first
yeah, you bring it
dragon
back.
comes, and the first thing that he grabs is his helmet.
Yeah,
and he still has the same helmet.
still has it.
You know,
Yeah.
and
And then
like,
you've got McConaughey, he's not even protected by hair. Like he's just all out there.
The parallels.
really.
man.
yeah.
That's we got a movie.
No, that works in with the themes. Like through
Yeah.
Christian Bale's trauma, he has become obsessed with safety.
Yes, he is like Iron Man with the suit. Like he's just like he's got anxiety.
Yeah.
But
you know?
not only that, but the castle is also like an extension of his helmet.
Yeah.
You can't fight.
Yeah.
You can't fight a dragon if you're always covered by armor. You gotta go swinging.
Yeah. So by that metric, Matthew McConaughey should be driving a convertible. He should be driving the JFK Dallas car.
No, it's a tank, but just the top is exposed to the sky so they can like see the dragons better.
That'd
Like
be
the
sick if it's a
turret is
tank
just,
that's
like, carved
already been
open.
ripped open and he
Yeah.
just keeps driving.
That
it.
would
That'd
be sick, actually.
Oh, that'd be badass. Okay.
And
yeah,
they-
we just made this movie so much better.
And because it
did.
was ripped open, the cannon is facing up towards the sky.
Yeah. But it's also the cannon's been like blown open,
Yeah,
so it's got that like Elmer Fudd type of barrel to
the
it.
flower petal look. Yeah.
The flower petal, yeah, and it just shoots a spray of like that's how you do it like duck hunting, like you
Yeah.
shoot a shotgun blast. Up.
Yeah.
We're
they never
crushing
fire the
this.
fucking cannon anyway, so like again, it doesn't matter.
They should hire.
You're still mad about that?
They should
yeah.
hire
I'm
They
really
should.
mad about it's like Chekhov's gun. You're gonna give me a tank and then you're not gonna fire it.
Chekhov's tank. That's great.
Chekhov's tank. I liked our little mini fix-a-flick here. That was fun.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. We're all at the zone pretty nicely. I did want to ask, how do we feel about the CGI dragons for 2002?
Honestly, pretty good.
I had no problem. No problem with them. There's a few wonky shots, especially of the big dragon later.
Yeah, I think the big dragon's a little rough.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is because he's on the ground and not in the air.
On the ground. I think that the army attack scene looks strange for some reason. I think some of the flying shots look a little like hand drawn.
Yeah, well, it's tough. I mean, it's tough to do CGI of the dark to begin with.
Yeah. At some point.
And yeah, I can see how they would run into problems with that. Just sort of matching the values of how the dark
Yeah.
background and especially in contrast with the fire. That shot where the dragon goes along the line of vehicles and like lights it all up all on fire. I went back and watched it like 3 or 4 times. You can see guys that are like either trying to shoot at the dragon or trying to run away that get eaten by the fire. And I don't know if they did that in
that's cool.
CGI or if they did that in some other compositing thing, but very impressive effect shot.
Yeah, the pyro work alone deserves a
Oh my God.
shout out. It's
Seriously.
really, really good.
I'm pretty sure that there is some fire in every shot of this film after the dragons wake up. Because even when you're in
Not
the
fire, smoke. Yeah,
well, because even when you're in the castle, they're using candles and torches to see. But then when you're outside, there's just always some patch of ground that's on fire.
yeah.
There's a great shot where it's establishing, and Christian Bale is just sitting there in that little alcove, just surrounded by candles, just like looking down when Gerard Butler brings him the whiskey. That first shot right before Gerard Butler walks into frame, just Christian Bale surrounded by all these candles is really, really nice.
But yeah, for 2002, a lot of the CGI holds up surprisingly well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I think
I
they
assumed
just
all
knew
those
how to
candles
film
were
it.
CGI, but you know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Well, and it's one of those things too. It's like it was in the era where they had to combine the CGI with other stuff. You know,
Yeah.
it was before you could create a full frame in basically like animation.
It's also the equivalent of film stock, where you only have the budget for X amount of CGI shots. So you have to be really smart about where you put them and how.
Yeah.
So like you don't have unlimited resources the way you do with like digital filmmaking.
Yeah.
You know?
You gotta plan ahead. Planning ahead.
Gotta
It's
plan ahead.
Most important. It's like a filmmaking superpower.
Yeah. It's like a nothing scene, but like the end of the Serenity movie where Nathan Fillion's fighting the bad guy over like like a swirling fan thing, and it's a big CGI thing. And on the commentary, Joss Whedon was like, the effects department said we can give you 6 shots of this, but that's all we can do. So you got to figure it out. So he went through the scene and like figured out every single time you're supposed to see that it has to have a reason to be shown properly. Like you establish it, and then you have a close call, and then you have the the walking out. Like it's you're smart with that stuff.
Yeah. There's something to be said for the creativity that comes from constriction.
Limitation.
One thing I want to highlight before we start to wrap up is my favorite Van Zandt unhinged speech. Let me pull it up real quick. After they kill the dragon for the first time. Also, another thing, I'm going to highlight something within my highlight. The dragon corpse statue thing. Holy shit.
That like
That looks
broken
amazing.
bone that's kind of like hanging out.
Yeah, like
that's cool.
the dragon compound fracture and the way like the flesh like rips apart and the way the scale like texture of the scales work. It's just really great and detailed and compelling, and I love that. But the so they're having the celebration after they kill the dragon, and you realize that it's only the citizens of the castle that are part of this party. And Van Sant and his army come in, and he opens up with "Envy the country that has heroes. I say pity to the country that needs them." And then that turns into like, we killed one dragon. One. There's thousands of them out there, and we lost like 6 guys trying to do it. Like, celebrate if you want, but you people disgust me. The tears welling up in his eye, like high wire act McConaughey is doing in balancing rage and sadness and guilt and fear in that, like, in a very, very still delivery of somewhat overwrought dialogue or monologue. I feel like deserves some recognition. What do you guys have thoughts about that scene?
I think it's a fantastic scene. I think it should be the moment that Christian Bale's character realizes there's something of value to learn from McConaughey as a leader, but it isn't. It's just a good McConaughey scene. Like it's just a missed opportunity, because like that is like a clutch thing. Him ending it with "you disgust me" is a little like really pushing, like kicking you while you're down. But I think it's a solid scene.
I think Frank kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like that little button at the end is just a hair too much.
Ryan has never made a sale. Well, you know what? He doesn't know anything, and neither do you. So suck on that!
I do like it in a sense, because it is that Patton thing of like, you kind of need to go over the top to understand that this guy is not in his right mind. I do wish that Christian Bale took that as a learning moment. And I think he does. It definitely hits him, and he kind of looks back to the party after that, if I remember, and like. I don't think he goes to shut it down, but I don't think he goes back to join it either.
No. Well,
yeah.
Well, and at that point, the party is effectively shut down. Like everybody in that room is like,
buzzkill.
suddenly. Well, but they suddenly get the weight of what's actually going on. You know,
it is a really good speech. I mean, it's hard to pick like a top 5 moment of McConaughey. Yeah, I think there's easily 10, like really really good McConaughey moments in this movie.
I mean, it's just a part you can't turn down because he gets to be this large, like a folk hero, you know.
Yeah.
And he gets all the good like one-liners, and he gets all the like last words in moments. Like, it's a shame he goes out like a punk ass bitch, but it's just a weird. It just cut weird. There's something about it that's like it doesn't feel like he's really like. Did you guys see Kong Skull Island?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a sacrifice at the end of that movie that's really similar, where it's supposed to be this like heartfelt moment, but it doesn't accomplish anything, and you're left like being like, is that supposed to be funny? Like, what was that?
Right.
Where you're like, it's so abrupt, and he dies so quickly that you're like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh.
And there are times in monster movies where that happens to make a point, where it's sort of like, this is nature. They don't give a shit. Nature doesn't give a shit about your grandstanding.
Yeah.
But I think this is much more. I think they're much more going for an Ahab thing with that. But there's so much other shit going on that, like, I think that gets kind of lost in.
I would have loved though, like, because the first time you see him use the axe, it's after the dragon is dead, right? He uses it and he like cuts the eye out or whatever he does.
Well,
you never actually really see what
horn.
he's doing.
Yeah. Well, he finds it in like the castle's armory.
Oh, he didn't bring that from home? I really thought he.
Well, he said he cleaned out the
had that.
armory. I'm not sure if he cleaned out the castle's armory or their.
No, it makes way more
armory,
sense
but-
that it comes from
Yeah,
the
I
castle.
actually missed that. I thought he brought it with him, but I kind of wanted it to be like they find the bull dragon and the bull dragon's sleeping, and he like goes to get it with the axe, and then the dragon like snatches him. Like something happens and he just gets eaten. I understand why they did what they did, but that to me would have made a lot more sense to have that moment be like that.
Yeah, I guess. I think what the struggle is like that he's going through that moment while Christian Bale and Pilot Lady, I'm sorry, are doing their own thing. You know, they're trying to solve their own problems, and they're cross-cutting between the three of them.
Yeah,
and
it feels part of the plan.
Yeah,
right.
Feels
Yeah,
like-
exactly.
It feels
yeah.
like they're like, okay, this is the part where you go up on the tower, right? And I would have been fine if all you really need, and this is honestly more my problem with the finale is, especially after the army gets demolished, after decades of this dragon not getting killed by all of the government's armies, and militaries, having Christian Bale just kind of shoot it and it dies. Like, if you were to have McConaughey do that same, give him the trailer shot, he jumps in, goes in, and you think he just gets eaten real quick, and you think the scene plays out like it is, but then he pulled a fast one before he got killed and shot an arrow with a bomb on one of the wings, so now it can't fly. Basically blow a hole in the wing, so now it's it's on the ground. Still dangerous, but at least it's oh, okay, now Christian Bale realistically might be able to have a shot at this thing while it's down.
Yeah.
Something. And then you're McConaughey, you got the last word again.
That'd be good too.
Just a little tweak.
Anything else we would fix?
The color grading.
The color, the weird love relationship between.
Oh yeah, they hint at a romantic relationship between Christian Bale and Isabella Scorpio, but why? You know, but that was the era where you just needed two attractive people to be the
make eyes at each other at the end.
the cornerstone breeding pair.
I know, yeah. Honestly, it's a kind of thing where it's if you had just had them being look, we're adults, the world's over, we should probably fuck. We should just do that. You'd almost
shaking hands.
respect the world building more. You know? For real. If you didn't play it so much as a joke and we're just
but again,
this is how dark things are.
They have to communicate so much in 2 minutes. It's like
Yeah.
they're setting up the radio tower, they're making eyes at each other, they hear that the French are calling, movie ends. Like, it's that fast.
Yeah. Well, and they have hints at it throughout the movie. Like, there's a moment where they share a knowing glance, like when the army first arrives. But like,
And she keeps on doing this like psychiatrist thing with him.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, "Is that why you're afraid to go?" Like, I feel like every like moment they have, she's like trying to psychoanalyze him. It's a very strange dynamic.
It's almost like she was a woman written by a man.
Yeah, yeah, that
You
feels
know?
accurate.
Call me crazy.
You're crazy. Is that it?
yeah, good movie.
That's it.
Good movie.
It's a better movie than it's bad.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a perfectly fine watch, and honestly, it's aging well because it's just like a charming movie Hollywood doesn't invest in anymore at
Right.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not a thing that exists anymore.
This is
Yeah.
That there you go. I agree. I like this movie purely because it's a movie that Hollywood doesn't make anymore.
If they did, it would be straight to streaming, but also like no sets. It would be so much fucking green screen. It would be like a Red Notice kind of movie.
Yeah. Be all green screen. Be straight to streaming, and also with hopes of being a franchise.
Yeah, you'd
They-
go too far the other way, and like everything would tease like a bigger.
Yeah.
world.
They have the next 3 movies planned out just in case.
Well, what do you think, guys? Should we keep on the rain?
It's still porn.
Should we keep the rain pouring on? I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about it for the next movie. But I think this wraps up Reign of Fire. This wraps up our 2-movie Rain series, and we'll catch you on the flip flop.
Stay dry.
Twice it came in on us, and twice it missed the heart of us. And that's when I had an epiphany.
I get older, they stay the same age.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.